Thank you, Hari Krishna. Thank you so much. Okay, hi, everyone. I hope everyone can see me clearly, and I hope I'm audible. Right. So nice meeting everyone. I'm Haida. So currently, I'm a lecturer in a public university in Malaysia. So basically, my portfolio or responsibility would be I'm teaching tertiary level of students, so university students ranging from undergraduate students, okay, degree students, diploma students, as well as postgraduate, meaning that masters and PhD. So I have also an experience with high school students, as I used to be a part-time teacher that teach high school students here in Malaysia. So I can say that I've met a wide ranging of age of students, and I've had experiences with them all. Yeah. So my professional background would be that I did my PhD in majoring in TESOL. And my research was on the development of augmented reality mobile application that helps to assist autism children with their vocabulary learning, specifically for English vocabulary.
Okay, thank you so much. So,
hello, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Jagdish. I am studying 8th grade. I am studying 9th grade at Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. Can I ask you a question, ma'am?
Sure.
Students from non-English speaking countries struggle to speak in English due to the lack of exposure. As an English teacher, what should I do to make them speak in English?
Right, great. Thank you, Jagadish, right? Thank you so much. Nice meeting you. Okay, so when we discuss about the issue of, struggle due to the lack of exposure, I would like to first praise your teacher, your beloved teacher here, Hari Krishna, for his effort in having all these educators all around the world to get to know all of you, and to have all of you to interact with all of them. I believe that that would be the most authentic ways in getting exposure to the language, because you interact with a lot of people coming from different backgrounds, with different accents, with different way and style of speaking, especially English. So I would say that that would be one of the best exposures, which is to get fully immersed into the language, and getting to know the language better by interacting with the person who actually speaks the language. So definitely that would be one of the best ways. And also I would say upbringing in the sense of environment. So being not a native speaker of English, it is very important for us to get ourselves in the environment of very encouraging in terms of speaking English. So you should be able to talk English with your friends, communicate in English, so that you will get used to the language. And we get better through practices. So the more we speak, the more we get better into that particular language. In this context, English language, I would say. So yeah, number one, encouraging environment, which what your teacher has been doing now, getting you to interact with a lot of educators from all over the world, as well as practices, and have you to speak more, to talk more, to start to speak up and talk more in the language, which is English. So I would say that that would be the two best strategies to have all of us, the non-native English speakers, to be better in English, I would say. Yes, Jagadish, am I answering your question?
A ninth grader from Z.P.H School, Ilavaram. Would you allow me to ask a question?
Sure.
What approach do you suggest to teach tenses and reported speech?
Oh, tenses and reported speech, right? Okay. So as for me, the approach is definitely, it should start from a very simple and basic statements, meaning that the teacher should teach the students with a very basic statement of a reported speech and direct versus indirect speech. Also, I would really want to put emphasis on the importance of relatable content or meaningful content, should I say, in the sense that, when a teacher teaches the statements or the sentences, it should be something that the students can relate to. For example, the activities or the routine that they have done throughout their whole lives, or whatever habits that they do in their daily routine. So that would be more meaningful for the students, so they will understand the content better. So when it comes to teaching grammar, I really like to make sure that the content should be relatable to my students. So that's one of the strategies, I would say. And of course, definitely another approach would be, as cliche as it sounds, but you have to memorize. So the teacher should be able to provide the formula of reported speech, and the students will have to at first memorize, and then later, when you get familiar to the formula, you will then start to understand and start to fully grasp the content and the idea of that particular formula. So that's what I think would be one of the best strategies.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
What activities would you suggest to engage students to speak English?
What activities to engage students to speak English? Okay. Right. I would say activities number one. When it comes to communicate, or when it comes to a language, the best way to go about it is definitely to communicate, number one, and to have more activities involving speaking, I would say. So I'm always a pros of collaborative or peer assisted activities, meaning that you do the activities with your friends. So we have maybe role plays, or something that the activities that you do in groups, that would be helpful, because you are more comfortable with your friends. So when you do the activities with your friends, you are more engaged, you are more active, and you are more comfortable to conduct the activities. Also, one of the strategies would be like what you're doing now, right? You try to speak up, you get yourself involved with this discussion and chat, and in a way, you've gathered, I would say, an informal learning. So not only you learned, the formulas and the content or the syllabus in the textbook, but also you are starting to put yourself in a larger scale of environment, which is a very practical real life situation or real life context. So I think these activities would be a few activities that can help you to grow a lot, not only as a non-native speakers, but also as an individual yourself. So you will be more how do I say, you'll be more connected to the world rather than in your own world of language learning, I would say. Yeah.
How are you, ma'am?
Good. How are you, Husnia?
I'm fine, ma'am. My name
Great.
is Sheikh Husniya. I
Okay.
am studying 7th class. Can I ask you a question, ma'am?
Sure.
How can we make students enjoy the learning English?
How can we make students enjoy learning English? Okay, great. Definitely. Again, I'm very pros of something that, even me myself, I would enjoy doing something that I can understand. So same goes to all of you. I believe that you will be very happy to do or to participate in the activities that that you have done before. For example, something that you know of, right? Maybe an activity of a role play. So if, let's say, the teacher gives you a task on role play, and the situations of that role play should be something that you have done before, or something that you are imagining you would have be able to do. So then you'll be more excited to do it. So I'm a believer of a meaningful activities, and something that is relatable to you as a student. So if let's say if I were a teacher and if I were to give you something that you've never done before, I believe that you will not be able to fully understand the task, and you will not be able to put yourself in that particular situation. So you will not be happy and you will not enjoy doing it. For example, now, like what you're doing, I hope that you are enjoying seeing all teachers all around the world and interact with them. As for me, I feel like it is a very interesting thing, as it's very nice to get to know other people. I love seeing other people. I love seeing getting to know people from all over the world, from different countries, different cultures. So I feel like it's a new breath of fresh air. So it's something that I love doing and I'm passionate about. So, that would be some of the things that I would suggest and advise for teachers out there, to think of the students and look at what the students love doing the most, and start to create content that is relatable to them in order for them to enjoy learning English.
I'm Sai, an
Mhm.
eighth grader from I'm Sai Nagastri, an eighth grader from Z.P.H.S School, Ilavaram. Ma'am, I would like to pose your question. Can I?
Sure.
What grammar topics are needed to be taught to speak English?
What grammar topics are needed? Okay, I believe that all grammar topics are important. Okay, however, I'm also a believer of, when it comes to grammar, it should start with a drilling, meaning that as a student, we need to be able to understand basic grammars, and we need to be able to know the basic grammars in order for us to speak English. But afterwards, we need to understand that it's not all about accuracy, and it's all about fluency. So as long as you are comfortable speaking in that language, in this context, English language, then it's okay. As through time, when you are progressing, your grammar will improve. And we should always remember that even the native speakers of English, um, they're not necessarily always correct with their own grammar as well. So they also make mistakes like us, right? Let alone us, the non-native speakers. So it's very important for us to know the formula of grammar. So all grammar should be learned, but not necessarily to put grammar as the main thing or the main priority. So you should be more focusing on the fluency, communicate more, talk more, and then later as you are progressing, your grammar will improve through time.
I'm Nandini, a ninth grader from Z.P.H School, Ilavaram. Here my question is teaching irregular verbs right approach before students are introduced grammar topics such as tenses?
All right. Okay. Irregular verbs. Yes, I believe that irregular verbs should be taught at the first place, because it involves the basic communication of English. So you should be able to somehow master that in order for you to be able to communicate in English better. But of course, there is no wrong in making mistakes. But definitely, irregular verbs would be one of the most important grammars that a learner should be able to acquire in order for the learners to be able to be better in the language itself, I would say. Yes, Nandini.
Malaysian education system, I have not actually gone through your education system. So what schools are popular in Malaysia, public or private? Has your Malaysian government has made a revolutionary initiatives, like our government has taken introduction of TOEFL examination for the primary school students as well as the secondary school students. So are there any efforts taken by your local government to um, to make your Malaysian students as a global citizens?
Right. Thank you, Hari Krishna, for that question. Yes. So basically, in Malaysia, we have 3 levels of education, definitely, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I can see that the government has been making quite a lot of changes in the sense of trying to to make the education system to be better. So what I can realize is that there is a bit more emphasis on the use of technology. So they are a bit more lenient on that, and they are more encouraging in regards to technology, the use of ICT technology, and also blended learning, I would say, with the help of physical classroom as well as technology. And also, I'm starting to see that nowadays it's good that the government has been trying to put less focus on examinations. So now the focus is no longer for examination. So the students can comfortably learn, and something that is relatable to them, and less examinations centered. So previously, we have quite a lot of examinations. We have for primary school students, we have one major exam, and then for secondary, previously we have two major exams, but now it has been changed to only one. So I believe that the tense is lessened for the students, and they're a bit more comfortable. But of course, there should be, emphasis in the sense of how the teachers should be able to guide the students properly, because too relaxed will not be good as well, but too tense will not be good as well. So the teachers would play the biggest role here, and that might have put a lot of tension to the teachers as well, I would say. But yeah, I can see that the government is rerouting towards that, and to make the education system to be more global, and to be a bit more something that is more meaningful, I would say, rather than just following by the books. Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever I hear the word Singapore, what comes to my mind is their education system. That's quite interesting, as well as I think inspiring for many Asian countries, including India. What made the Singapore education system is so unique in the Asian continent as well as in the world? Do you have any idea
Right.
about
I think one thing I would say, of course, the upbringing and the modernized way of thinking, I would say. They are modern in the sense that, they are not only modern in the sense of the education system, but also the mindset. So they are more open to new knowledge, they're more open to changes, which I would say most Asian countries, we are afraid of changes, I would say, right? We are more comfortable in our safe zone and just being us, rather than go out there and explore. So I would say one thing that we should learn from Singapore would be the openness to changes, I would say. Yeah, so maybe that's one of the things that made them to be more advanced
it?
in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Here is another question. You have been a successful educator. You have been teaching many students in the field of English language. So I personally think that you are an inspiring teacher in your region, because the way that you explained to some of the questions posed by my students, definitely you are one of the greatest teachers of your region. So I have a question. Actually, one of my students has opted this question, but he's not available. What qualities do you think are an important for an excellent English teacher? I think you are an excellent English teacher. So
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you so much. And well, I will not claim myself as excellent though, but thank you so much. I'm trying to be that teacher. Great. So this is a very relatable question for us, right? Educators. Um, so for me personally, an excellent teacher should be a teacher who is proactive, wanting to learn new things, and also the kind of teacher who acts as a facilitator rather than a teacher. A teacher should be a friend. A teacher
Yeah.
should be someone who teaches and guides rather than just teach A, B, C, and D. But a teacher should be able to, just probe students with something and let them fly with their own wings and explore the world. So I would say that is an excellent teacher for me.
So what would be the right choice to speak English? Thinking in their mother tongue or thinking in English? As for me, thinking in English is the right choice. But How about your way of thoughts about this question?
Right. Good question. Yeah, it's very not provocative, quite controversial, right? This kind of question. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I also believe that, it's better for us to think in English, but however, I would say that again, as we are progressing towards getting better, then maybe in the early stage, students are allowed to, to start thinking in their own native language first, their own mother language. Then, they will have to code switching to English. But of course, when they get better, they'll be with a lot of, with the more knowledge, with the more experience, and they will start to train themselves to think in English, then, to speak up in English. I was like that previously back in the days. I believe that at the early stage, of my journey, I used to start thinking in my own language first, in Malay, and then I'll code switch to English. As I progress through time, then, with the knowledge, with the experience, then only I managed to get myself better in that sense of, thinking in English, then come up with the words in English. Yeah, but this always happened with my students. Whenever they had to do presentations, they always tell me and say, madam, sometimes English is a lot easier in our head. But when we speak up, it's a lot harder than we think it would be. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works. But you will learn, it gets better through time, of course. Yeah.
So in my regional language, I think India, we have many regional languages. So my regional language is Telugu. So what I personally suggest to my students, you first, in order to equip yourself with a good vocabulary in English language, try to
Correct.
find out as many regional language, as many regional words as possible. You try to think those regional words in English. And
Correct.
every day at home with your mother, you can spend some time. And there are many provisions that are available in the kitchen. You just try to think them in English. And
Correct.
outside, you can try to think them in English. You just take a small, short book or small book. You note them, those regional
Jot it
words. And
down.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, try to identify them, their alternatives in English. That's what I usually suggest my students to expand their vocabulary. And how
Correct.
about you suggest to your students and the international students like my students to expand their vocabulary?
Vocabulary, right? As cliche as it sounds, of course, one of the tricks would be, as your way, for them to, when they see a word, they jot it down and then try to use the word as much as possible, right? As frequent as possible.
Yes.
And I also would, what I usually did is, I always practice when I watch movies, I will have the English subtitles when I'm watching the movie, so that not only I listen to the words, but also I have a look at the subtitles. So whenever I see familiar words again, I will, jot it down and then see how can I use this word. And sometimes when I hear those words, I will be like, okay, how can I use these words in my daily use? Sometimes I will jot it down and be like, okay, I'm eager to use this word. When can I use this word, right? Yeah. So watching movies definitely, and a lot of reading, definitely. Very simple reading. It doesn't have to be a very big um chunk of information, and I'm always a believer of bite-sized learning, in the sense that small size of information matters. Each day, even though one word each day, that can accumulate to a bigger information and a larger context of information, I would say.
In this context, how can we reduce the mother tongue influence? Because my students, they speak their regional language quite fluently than the English language. They are so comfortable in communication.
Possible.
So inside and outside, even though my persistent efforts and to make them speak in English means within the classroom timings, at least 40 minutes, and once they leave the classroom, they switch to their regional language.
This
so,
happens already, yes.
so I try my level best at least to create the English environment in my classroom for the 40 minutes. Even though I make some efforts to penalize them for speaking their regional language. So my students collect a little money from them for switching to the Telugu language as my regional language. So what would you suggest to reduce the mother tongue influence on the students? As a teacher, what should we do?
Yeah, of course. I can see the struggle, but yeah, definitely it's true. In and how it happens here in Malaysia as well. It's quite frustrating to see sometimes, even in schools, the English teachers speaks our mother language than English in the class, which it's quite frustrating. How would you expect the students to communicate in English if you yourself are speaking or conversing in Malay, for example, right? Yeah, so I would say definitely the environment and the motivation, the encouragement as well. Definitely. What you're doing now is the best way. Even though with that 40 minutes, hopefully they learn a bit from that 40 minutes. Hopefully that they get the meaningful content from that 40 minutes. But yeah, I think environment is very important. Of course we cannot blame the upbringing, in the sense that sometimes when they're out of school, they will speak in their own mother language, but at least hopefully in the classroom they have that space, their own safe space, in order for them to converse comfortably in English, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So English, of course, international language, and in Malaysia too, I think there are many English schools and international schools.
Yes.
So in order to promote English language in Malaysia, what the role is the government playing? I have just shared a few revolutionary activities or initiatives taken by my regional government. So, how about the government in your country? So, are the steps taken by your government in supporting the English medium, and so to develop to improve their spoken skills?
Okay, great. So now I'm starting to see that the government is more encouraging towards this program of a pitching program. So nowadays in Malaysia, we are very famous with pitching competitions. So we will have this program which students are given the chance to join pitching competitions, and they are to promote whatever innovations that they have made, not only for the students but also the teachers. Also, in the universities now, we have this one servicing courses, which will help the graduates to be more prepared with their English language proficiency before they go into the workforce environment. So as I've mentioned previously, I'm teaching classes ranging from basic English communication skills to English professional communication skills. So we have all that syllabus to cover, to make sure the students to be more aware of the right way to converse, the right way to communicate, to prepare them for the real life situations, because they have been in their own bubbles of just classrooms without having to know what's outside for them, right? Yeah, so we have these courses that will help to prepare them, hopefully, for their workforce environment. Yeah.
So, by the time when the students in Malaysia leave their school, and that means by the time they complete their schooling, do you think that the students are well equipped with the professional soft skills, like are they able to speak English fluently once after leaving the school, after completion?
Okay. All right. The reality is definitely not all are able to converse well after school. There are a lot of things to be done. Of course, there are a lot of efforts need to be taken in order to make sure that students are able to master English language after school in a very short span of time. But of course, with a more with families that are quite better in terms of their economy, they have the options to send their kids to international school. And at international schools, usually, this would be the right environment in making sure that their children are able to master the language. So international school will leave the school graduates to be able to master English. But for public schools, it take quite some time, it take quite some efforts. Although, not only because of the teachers factor, but also because of the environment factors, in the sense that there are a lot of students in the classroom, so making the teachers not being able to give focus for each of them. And also, sometimes having to cater to all syllabus, no time for personal development. It's just more towards, trying to finish up the content and the syllabus. So that would be some of the constraints that needs to be improved. But yeah, I would say a very small portion, but it's all about individuals' way of improving, I would say, the students' effort themselves. Yeah.
Yes. So I have one more question, and it would be the last question because the
All
time
right.
is ticking right at the moment. So are there any professional developmental programs for the teachers that are working in public sector in Malaysia from time to time? In India,
In our country, in Malaysia, we always have this terms of reskilling and upskilling. So there'll be a lot of programs that will cater to these objective, in which sometimes teachers will go to workshop, English communication workshop, to improve, to polish their communication skills. And teachers sometimes, pursue or further their studies to reskill and upskill their skills in teaching, as well as in certain language that they're teaching. So we have this kind of workshops, but there is none that is for that specifically. But it's more towards, a lot of programs will be organized, and it's up for the individuals themselves to to join these programs. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much for your time. So
Thank you
we,
so much
yeah,
for having me.
you gave a lot of information about your country's education system and especially language acquisition. I think you have given a lot of valuable inputs. So before we wind up the session, could you please give a final message to my students?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you had fun with the chat session tonight. I'm very happy that all of you somehow made the effort to be part of this, and I feel like this is very rare. It's very rare. I feel like this is one in a million of having this kind of effort from your teacher, to call upon educators all over the world to interact with you. So I would say, stay strong, don't give up, okay? Be visionary, and it's okay to dream, okay? Dream big and work hard to achieve that dream of yours always.
Thank you.